Welcome back to our third installment in our video package. The elephant isn't just a transaction. Once again, remember the four elephants in the room inside of a persuasive or sales context. Again, when you're selling something, when you're trying to persuade someone, when you're trying to put forth an argument, the person on the other side of the room or the people on the other side of the room are always thinking about several things beyond just what you're trying to sell them. They're usually thinking about, in the privacy of their own thoughts, don't forget, the four elephants are trust. Why should I trust this guy? We've talked about that. Remember, we segmented trust into three different areas, okay? Transparency and all of that. Again, if you want to revisit that, you can get a hold of me or revisit video number 2, trust. That's the most important elephant in the room. The second piece in the four elephant scenario is distinction. What makes you different from anyone else selling me a bank account or selling me a car or trying to persuade me on this argument? What makes you different? Not the company, not the logo, not the business card. What makes you different? That's called distinction. That's what we're going to concentrate on. That's what we're going to focus on in this video, is distinction. What makes you different, okay? And again, the third piece in terms of the four elephants are commitment and then performance and application. So we'll talk about that later. Again, trust, distinction, commitment, performance, and application. So in this video context, we're talking about distinction. Okay, so again, I've already laid the groundwork, right? Your client, your prospect, they're thinking, what makes this person different? So how do you make yourself different when you're selling something? Do you talk about who you are, who your brand is? Because keep in mind, all of us have a brand. It's who we are when you leave the room. That's what people think of you. What are you known for? And if you're known as a person who's distinctive inside your industry and outside of your industry, then you become a resource. So how do you distinguish yourself from everyone else? Let's just use banking, for example, right? 18 million banks in the world. Nobody likes bankers, quack, 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 but bankers gotta sell loans and deposits. That's what they have to do. What makes you distinctive? Here's a great technique. Make it about you. Tell your story. Talk about your values. Talk about your non-negotiables. Think about this. Every one of us has something that we stand for. In an earlier video, I called it conviction, but it's also a non-negotiable. It's something you're not going to put up with. No one's going to cross that line. What is that? If it's something you can talk about in your sales context, that's your non-negotiable. Doesn't that make you distinctive? Absolutely. Here's another technique. Talk about courage. All of us are brave and courageous about certain things. Like Jacob here, for example, the guy that does all my video stuff, and Jaden, he just had a baby. I would surmise that he is courageous about protecting his family. I bet you that's what he's about. And if that is his conviction and his courage, he should talk about that if he's trying to sell something. Does that make sense? Each of us have courage, but we're not trained to talk about it. If we can talk about our courage, things that we stand for, commitment, that kind of thing, inside the sales construct, it makes us distinctive. Here's another great one. Talk about legacy. I'm sure all of us have something that we believe in that's bigger than just banking or selling a car or whatever. Do we talk about that? Do you ask your client those questions? Mr. Client, talk about your legacy. What's bigger than this transaction? When you can move those conversations into that area, it's emotional, it's passionate, it's trust, it's commitment, it's distinction. Performance, we spend too much time talking about deliverables and performance. We don't spend enough time talking about our story, your client's story. Ask them those kinds of questions. And by the way, it's not easy to do. I'm not suggesting this is easy, but I'm telling you, over time and with practice, if you begin to talk about bringing out your story in the sales context and asking questions of your client that relate to those kinds of things, ask a question. What are you courageous about? What is your legacy? What are you committed to? What are your convictions? It begins to tell the story, the client's story, and your story. It becomes human, it becomes authentic, it becomes distinctive. Because think about it, bankers, car salespeople, all these folks in sales were trained from the top down. from the top down. No one talks about existential sales. That's what this is, owning who we are and defining our brand first, and defining and understanding the brand or the culture of the person that you're persuading. It's not easy to do, but I'm telling you, I've done millions of dollars in this godforsaken state called New Mexico by using these techniques, because it's human and people are starving for some authenticity and some humanity, particularly inside the sales context. Again, distinction. I'll give you a quick example. A couple of weeks ago, I was training these financial advisors in this very blue blood upscale office, right? They paid me some money to do it. So I lined these 5 guys up, 7 in the morning. And I told these 5 guys I told these 5 guys, line up against the blackboard like you're ready to make a sales presentation, and bring whatever you bring inside that context, assuming you're making a sale. So I lined these 5 guys up here, 2 here, 3, 4, 5. They all were wearing their little suit. They had their little badge on, their little, their little emblem. They had their little brochure there. And I stood back there where you're at. I looked at them and I said, you know what, frankly, you look like 5 clowns. You look like 5 clowns because you look exactly the same. Don't you agree? Most clients are thinking that. They're not going to say it. So what I said to them, take off your jacket, all 5 of you, and put the damn brochure down. By the way, did you write that brochure? Of course they didn't write the brochure, but yet we're supposed to establish a sustainable relationship even though you didn't write that brochure. Once again, the client knows you didn't write the brochure. Put the brochures down, take your jackets off. Once they took their jackets off, one guy was wearing a blue shirt, one guy was wearing a green shirt, one guy was wearing a purple shirt. Now they're becoming more distinctive because they're taking some of their costume off and beginning to deploy, beginning to reveal who they are. Does that make sense? Each of you have that same opportunity. Reveal yourself. Tell your story. Make yourself distinctive. One final technique inside the context of distinctiveness. If you're one of the folks that, let's say you're a banker, let's say you're a car salesman. One of the things I did that allowed me to have distinction inside the banking industry, because I was in the banking industry, is I invented this thing called business and coffee. A very simple thing to do. So all of you out there that are in that kind of industry, you can invent a business and coffee. What's a business and coffee? Once a month, go to a coffee house and say, hey, will you give me free coffee and donuts? I'm going to bring 10 business people here. And you simply invite 10 people to that little coffee and business. What does it do? You're creating your own network. You're bringing people together, and you're creating distinctiveness inside the industry. Essentially, my business and coffee became one of the biggest ABQ Connect Now networking events in Albuquerque, and I just started it with 5 people. The point is, make yourself distinctive inside your industry. If you'd like further techniques or to further expand on any of this, give me a call. You've got my website, once again, connectionwithak.now.com. But again, one of the second elephants in the room that's important is how are you different? How are you distinctive? And I'm telling you, it makes sense and it's obvious. Tell your story. Talk about your values, your convictions, your non-negotiables, the things you're courageous about, and ask those same questions of your clients. Not easy to do, but with practice, you bring out the humanity in the sales and/or persuasive context. Jeffrey Candelaria, Connection Now 03 LLC.